What is going on, everybody? I am the FD Guru, bringing to you guys a Week 3 NFL video for the main slate on Sunday. We have 9 games in the early window at 1 o'clock Eastern and 4 games in the afternoon window for the 4 o'clock games. We have a ton of value on this slate. We're going to be really able to do whatever we want. I'm doing a free Guru credit code in this video, so stick around. I'll give that to you at some point after the first few picks. Like the video, subscribe. I do appreciate your support. Quarterback is crazy this week, so we're going to be without, in my opinion, the 4 best fantasy quarterbacks in the NFL. We have Josh Allen playing on Thursday night against the Dolphins. We have Lamar Jackson in that primetime game against the Lions. And then we're without Joe Burrow and most likely Jaden Daniels on this main slate on Sunday. This leaves a lot of opportunities for us to get cheap, get some value. There's plenty of stud running backs and wide receivers to spend up on. Tight ends, it's always good to spend up on those because there's not many good tight ends in general. Lots of things we can do. I'm going to talk about each position as I usually do. I also have a Guru Credit promo going on my website until Sunday. Get a 100% match when you spend $50. So instead of getting 250 credits, you'll get 500 credits. So take advantage of that. That is valid from Thursday to Sunday. Obviously, you can only do it one time, but take advantage of that promo. We're also coming up on the NBA season within the next month. So for quarterback, I don't think we want to spend up on Jalen Hurts. I don't really like any of these more expensive guys. Maybe Baker Mayfield against the Jets. The Buccaneers are the number 2 highest projected offense on this slate behind the Cowboys. Daniel Jones, he's had a crazy first 2 games, so if you wanted to get different, he's running hot. Probably going to be low owned. Good matchup against the Titans. Jordan Love, you could look at. Good matchup against the Browns. I think the best value play is Dak Prescott. This Cowboys and Bears game is the best game, in my opinion, for fantasy in week 3 on the main slate. You have a 50.5 over-under. It's a 1-point spread. Both defenses haven't been great. So the sky's the limit, really, for both of these teams. I love Dak at 7,300. I think he could absolutely torch this Bears defense, and he's looked good coming off of last week. 52 pass attempts. That game against the Giants was insane. 26 fantasy points. He's projected for 19 this week. Again, his price is just hard to argue at 7,300. He could easily be the highest scoring quarterback on this main slate. And then on the other side, 7,100, if you wanted to save $200, Caleb Williams is basically projected the same amount of fantasy points as Dak Prescott going head-to-head. Like I said, it's a 1-point spread, so basically a pick 'em. This game looks like it's going to be awesome for fantasy. Caleb Williams has looked good in his first 2 games. Maybe not throwing the ball. Like if you're a fan, he's had some bad throws and some bad reads. But for fantasy, he's doing what he needs to start this year. 24 fantasy points in his first game, 18 in a tough matchup against the Lions, where it's actually pretty impressive he got 18 against the Lions because the Lions were cooking them right out of the gate. So Caleb Williams at 7,100 is another elite value play. And then one guy, honorable mention, we're probably going to have to look at if you really wanted to save money, Marcus Mariota. If Jaden Daniels is going to be ruled out like he's expected to be on Sunday, Marcus Mariota is going to be the guy to step up, and he's a bare minimum at 6K with a good matchup against the Raiders, his former team, little bit of a revenge game. We know he's going to try to do everything he can do to look great, because when you're the backup quarterback for Jaden Daniels, you're going to have very minimal opportunities to be able to show what you still have left. Commanders are minus 3.5 favorites at home, 45 over under, so it's a pretty good matchup here for Mariota if you really wanted to save the money. Although I do think at just over $1,000 more, Dak Prescott and Caleb Williams are your guy. But Mariota is definitely someone to consider, especially if you're a guy who likes to play multiple lineups in a tournament. Getting exposure to Marcus Mariota might not be a bad thing. It'll allow you to spend up on a ton of other guys. Running back, this is another reason why we can spend up on a lot of things. Not only are the quarterbacks a good value, but we have an automatic chalk play at running back this week, and that's Jordan Mason. We all know what he did last year when Christian McCaffrey was out, and he stepped up as the starter in San Francisco. Now Aaron Jones is out. I'm not sure. I think he's on IR for 4 weeks at least with a hamstring injury. Mason was getting plenty of production in the first 2 games, even as a backup. 24 combined carries. His runs looked really good. He's got a good yard per average on his rushes, got involved in the pass game. He's an automatic play at 5,800. He's just obviously mispriced for the role he's going to have on Sunday as the starter against a terrible Bengals defense that has been notoriously bad for a handful of years now. Mason looks unbelievable. I don't see how you fade him. Unless you just want to do something weird, because he's going to be like, I'd say in cash games, he's going to be 90 to 95% owned, and then tournaments probably 50% owned. So if you wanted to take a shot at him just having a weirdly bad performance, you could shave off 50% of the entries in tournaments. I don't see it happening. He's projected for a ton of good things on Sunday, and his price is just so wrong. Then other running backs you want to look at, I love Bijan. I love McCaffrey. I might like Bijan a little bit more. His workload has substantially increased towards the end of his rookie year into this year. 22 carries against the Vikings, didn't even get in the end zone, and he got 21 fantasy points. He's projected to score the most fantasy points in week 1 from the last thing I looked at, and that's including quarterbacks. Bijan against the Panthers could do some diabolical things. So even though he is 9,500, I think it's worth it. We have value on this slate with quarterbacks, with Jordan Mason, some other cheap wide receivers, where we can spend up on Bijan and possibly Christian McCaffrey as well, and get those cheap wide receivers in there, because on FanDuel, we get that flex spot. So if you wanted to play Jordan Mason, Bijan, and CMC, 3 running backs, you could do it. I think that would be a really good move for this week. In terms of other valuable running backs, if you didn't play Dak in your lineup and you went somewhere else, Javonte Williams is projected for like 15 fantasy points against the Bears, 7,200. It was a question what kind of workload he was going to get with all the other running backs in that backfield to start the year. He had a great week 1, scored twice, and then last week against the Giants was undoubtedly the number 1 running back for the Cowboys. 18 rushes, 97 yards, another touchdown, 7 targets through the air, 22 fantasy points. His price is now starting to reflect the confident role that we all now know as fantasy players, and I still think it's a good value play at 7,200. In terms of value, though, I don't know if it's a better play than the other 3 guys I mentioned, Jordan Mason, Bijan, and CMC. And then just for the record, between Bijan and CMC, I do think Bijan's the better play, even though he is $400 more expensive. And then for running back, obviously, when I make my lineups on Sunday, I'll figure out if I can do it or not. But if we're picking Dak, it's a real damn good idea to pick CD as well at 8,800. He's projected the most fantasy points over any other wide receiver this week. You can't go wrong with Justin Jefferson against that Bengals defense either. His price has gone down a little bit after a couple of poor performances, but we all know what Justin Jefferson's capable of doing. The downside of that is he's not going to have J.J. McCarthy throwing to him. I forget who the Vikings backup is. Carson Wentz, that's right. I mean, Justin Jefferson is Justin Jefferson, but, he obviously takes a hit a little bit when you have Carson Wentz throwing to you. CD, especially if you're picking Dak, is an unbelievable play. And then a guy that I'm just going to keep riding until they respect him is the rookie, Tet McMillan. 6K, his price didn't go up enough. He was like, I forget his price last week, but it was right around this, and I put him in every lineup. He had 100 yards, 6 catches. He looked good in his first career game, 5 catches, 68 yards. He's just a great fantasy wide receiver because he's the clear-cut number 1 guy. Bryce Young has shown flashes of being a great quarterback, and he's on a team like the Panthers where they're going to be down in games more often than not. And that obviously benefits wide receivers because I say this basically every week, but when you're down in games, running backs get hurt and wide receivers thrive because you throw the ball far more often to save the clock. Tet's probably going to have a pretty damn good overall year on a team like the Panthers when they're losing a lot of games. 6K, not the right price in my opinion. After seeing him in the first 2 weeks, he should be 7,000 at least on this team. Pretty decent matchup against the Falcons, who have shown a 19th in the league against the pass through the first couple of games. For my Guru credit code, go to my website, FD-GURU.com. This is where you get all your FanDuel and DraftKings lineups. You get these credits by buying them at the shop or getting them via promo like I do in these videos. You got to be signed into an account, obviously, for the coupon to work, so the credits can go into your balance. This week, it's week 3 NFL and then the year 25, all capital letters on week in NFL. Week 3 NFL 25, hit apply coupon. You'll get 20 free Guru credits into your balance to use to your leisure. For tight end, depending on how your lineup's looking, your build, where you're saving, you want to spend up on tight end again. Brock Bowers might not be 100%, but he's got a great matchup against the Commanders, was able to play 77% of the snaps in Monday Night Football against the Chargers, so that's a convincing sign. We'll see what that news looks like going into Sunday. Trey McBride, I think, is a better play. He's projected for a fantasy point or two more than Bowers, and he's $400 cheaper. He's looked great through the first 2 weeks. Hopefully he can not replicate what he did in the 2024 season where he didn't score a touchdown. He didn't get a receiving touchdown until like the second to last game of the season, and he's now gone through the first 2 games this year without scoring. But he's a tight end, always going to be a red zone threat to score. 16 combined targets, 12 combined catches on those 16 targets through the first 2 weeks. He's looked great. Obviously a top 2 tight end in the NFL. Nothing wrong with McBride with a matchup against the 49ers. And then if you wanted to go cheap, there's 2 cheap guys I like. It's Tyler Warren with an awesome matchup against the against the Titans, who have been the worst passing defense through the first 2 games this year. 5,600 is not a high enough price. He's looked great in his first 2 career games. Daniel Jones making an obvious effort to throw him the ball. 16 combined targets for about 150 receiving yards through his first 2 games. He looks like he's going to pan out to be all the hype around him as he was dominating at Penn State last year. So there were high hopes on Tyler Warren this year, and he is fulfilling them so far through 2 weeks. Good value here, 5,600, not the right price on him. And then one last guy is Jake Ferguson. I mentioned him in last week's video. If you're picking Dak Prescott, obviously a good idea to pair wide receivers and tight ends with your quarterback. Jake Ferguson, same price as last week, which is too cheap. Looked great last week, 12 targets, 9 catches for 78 yards. We all know Dak Prescott likes throwing to Ferguson, so this price is wrong. I think him and Tyler Warren should both be around 6K, if not a little bit more. So good value tight ends and good expensive tight ends as well. Tight end is a fun position this week. There's not many other guys that are catching my eye there, but we'll put Trey McBride in for now. Again, depending on where you're spending up on your lineup, if you need to save the money, going towards Warren and Ferguson is a good idea. And then for defense, if you can spend up, the Packers look like the best defense, projected the most fantasy points against the Browns. Nothing wrong with them at all at 5K. But if you wanted to save some money, I have 2 cheaper ones I'm liking. The Bucks against the Jets look great. They're projected like top 4 fantasy points, and they're only priced at 4K. And then the Atlanta Falcons. I was talking about Ted McMillan being on a struggling offense. This game has a pretty low over-under. The Falcons defense looks like they're too cheap at 3,800, coming off of a just dominating performance against the Vikings on Sunday Night Football in Week 2. 21 fantasy points. They're going to be riding high going into a matchup against the Panthers. Probably the best value play at defense, in my opinion. That'll do it for this video, guys. Give it a like. Thanks for coming in. Let's have a huge week 3. Take advantage of that Guru credit code I gave you and the Guru promo on my website where you get your $50 purchase doubled up. Let's cash it. Until next week, I am the FD Guru. Thanks for stopping by. Peace.